My hat! Alright, so now we're on bag 2, step 3. So we have a servo here. That's the servo that I'm going to be using. It's overkill, but it's a low profile Savox SV1254MG. Not sure if it's not focusing. But that's the servo I'm going to be using. And I need some parts. And if you look at this here, this is what I have to assemble. All right, so ball stud, here it is, 8mm, good. Servo horn, like I said, eventually I'll replace this one, perfect. Collar, here's the collar. 8mm screw, 8mm screw, there it is. And what happens there? I have that washer, this. You have to go into a completely different bag. And that's one of the things that I find annoying about Team Associated kits. And it may not seem like a big deal, but you have to go over to bag, what is this, 9 or 6, whatever this is. And then you open up the main bag. And there's another bag. And then you open up that bag. And then there's another bag. And your links are in here. So I had to look for the bag. Now, keep in mind that I've built Associated kits before, so I already knew this was going to happen. I was hoping they had changed it so this wouldn't happen, but they did not. But here we go. I have those pieces now, and I have a bag that's open, so I'm not going to get to until further down the build. But I guess that's the way things go. So here we go. That piece and this piece over here. Great. And now I'm going to use my 1.5mm driver, and this screw here, on one end you can stick the driver, on the other one you cannot. So it's pretty simple. And this here, I'm going to drive it just under halfway. And the reason why is I need to stick a washer there, and then I need to drive the other part. So the washer will go in there. And so now I grab this other piece. And you're supposed to tighten these until snug, but one of them is going to be facing you, the other one's going to be facing up. So here we go. It's not too bad to hand tighten. Something else that you could do. Let's see, it's snug, that's too much. All right, and now I'll back it quarter turn. Right. You could stick a driver in here and a driver in here and then just spin the drivers. That's another option. But there we go. So the link is set. It says, according to the instructions, I'm supposed to tighten until snug, but this would be way too tight if I keep going, just because of the angle. So that, I don't really feel any play here. No, yeah, there's a little bit. Let's see. Well, let me try it. There we go. All right, so I continued. There it is. And that part is set. So now I can worry about the servo. Now the servo, I run power previously to it, so it should be 90 degrees. And I'm going to grab the horn and the collar. And the collar is what goes first. Now, one of the things about the collar that you will notice is the collar has a rounded side and a flat side. Now, I'm going to place the rounded side toward the servo, and the flat, well, actually the flat side here on the back of the horn. So it'll seat just like that. So the flat side is here and the rounded side is over here. And now I'm going to go ahead and place this, and I will place it, well, I guess I have no choice, it's not going to be perfect 90. I'll go there. Once it's there, I'll go there. And now I just need an 8mm screw. And for the 8mm screw, I use a little bit of thread lock. do not over tighten, mainly because the screw is sitting on plastic. If you over tighten, you'll damage the plastic and the horn will pop out and you'll be left with a screw and a little plastic ring from the servo horn. But here we go. Now we can go ahead and install the 8mm bull stud here, or ball stud. And at some point, well, once my aluminum horn comes in, I'll replace it. But definitely get an aluminum servo horn or any metal servo horn that fits properly. Because, like I said, the plastic one, you will break it. First thing you will break. And they tend to snap right around here. They generally snap sort of at an angle, but it's right through here. Good. So the servo is set. So at this point, we can go on to step 4. So step 4, you're just going to grab the arm that you assembled, and this here will simply snap on there. And it'll just kind of sit there. And we will be needing 4 screws and 4 washers. So we have the washers here, 2, 3, 4, and I have a feeling that I'm missing a screw. And I'm not talking about my head, to be honest. If I look at this, yes, that's the correct. All right, so I just kind of grabbed the chassis. I didn't kind of grab it, I grabbed it. But this one here, I'm going to remove it. I don't think there's a screw for the servo. So you know this is actually a 10mm, but it fit. Yeah, it's probably a 10mm that I need for over here. So I will be needing a screw here, but right now I'm not going to worry about it. So just grab these 10mm screws. Yeah, these are probably 10mm. I mean, these are the 10mm. There's only 4 screws. These are the same size that fit that description. And I could grab my ruler and measure. All right, and those are going to be the ones that are going to be holding the servo in place. So the servo, now don't worry too much about it. You will need some thread lock according to the instructions for some of these. The important thing is that this is 90 degrees, and I will have to adjust the trim later on. We'll put once I run power. But first thing is to just place a screw here that can hold the servo horn. So you want an 8mm screw. That's what it calls for. If you have an 8mm screw, go ahead and use that. And if you do not, you can always use something slightly shorter and then replace it. For me, here's an 8mm screw that I'll be using. And that one already had some thread lock compound. Using a different type of screw. There. Do not over tighten. If you saw me there, just hesitate. I was just slowly applying pressure. That's the reason why. All right, great. So at this point, we can move on to step 5. And step 5, this is where the servo gets mounted. After we place these aluminum components here. So let me grab the thread lock. I'm just going to put a little drop here. It'll be easier if I do it here. Just a dab. All right, good. So these are going to go in the back, just behind your servo, and it doesn't matter which way they go. They're the same. So this will go here, and then the screws will just screw on here. make sure that you put the washer. The washer is so that the screw has a strong surface to go on. If you do not use the washers, you can damage those little areas in your servo. Don't want to ruin the case. All right. These, I don't know why 8mm. These are, sorry, 10mm, 8mm. Oh, these are 8mm. These are too long. Way too long. I have no idea why. Let me just check something. Maybe I made a mistake here. Oh, no. The only thing I can think of is, yeah, these have to be, all right, these are definitely 10mm. So on the chassis, I will show you. Instructions are not most clear, but it appears to be that only the rearward. Let me look at this. All right, let's see. So if we see this, 10mm 4, no, 8mm 7. I did that. All right, never mind. These just seem way too long in this bag. Next thing you know, there's another bag. My goodness, it's going to be this bag. It's going to be the bag with the sway bar. Yep, grab the bag with the sway bar, dump everything out. Alright, that solves it in 8mm. See, some of you are probably thinking, had you measured? And yes, you are right, had I measured. Alright, here we go. Washer and thread lock. Let's go ahead and place this here. And I don't know what that was all about. I was about to put the washer in the driver. Here we go. Now, I'm not really concerned about these backing out, but a quick little note, many times screws, when they're brand new like this, they still have some of the machining oil from when they were cutting the screws. You may want to wipe them off with alcohol or something just to get rid of that oil. All right. There we go. Is the washer on? No, the washer's not on. So here we go. So I make the mistakes so you don't have to. Actually, it wasn't a mistake. I was just trying to see if any of you were paying attention. Nobody said anything. Or at least I didn't hear anything. But here we go. We're almost there. The worst thing is when you build something, so you place, I don't know, 5, 10, it doesn't matter, even 4 screws, sometimes even a screw. Well, a screw's not too bad. Then you have to undo it because there was a small little mistake. Alright, so I'm trying to line this up. I may have to loosen these later. And the reason why is I may have to adjust it once I'm mating this to the chassis. That's the reason why. Alright, here we go. And these are going to mount right here. Alright, so the servo front, the servo horn will go on the right side of the chassis. So this will seat on this side. And let's see, the washers are here in the chassis, so that's fun. But I can definitely work my driver here. So I'll actually loosen these for now. I'll loosen these over here, and I will fully tighten them once I place the top two screws. Why is this not? There we go. All right, great. And you just need the two screws that go here, and these are 10 millimeter. I already know these are 10 millimeter because they were longer. Worry about that one later. And here we go. See, had I used the other screws, this would have hit. All right, so I'm not going to drive this all the way. Yet, until I place this one. All right, here we go. And now I drive the other one. And again, just snug. You're going into plastic. So now I can go ahead and tighten. I'm going to go there. I'm going to skip over to here. And then I'll go up. I'll go over here. And there we go. And this here will just clip onto this part. Now, when you're clipping it on, place your finger back here. You don't want to stress that part too much. I don't know if it would break. Why risk it? But that is it. So that is now attached. So we have our entire steering assembly complete. Now we have to go ahead and assemble, per the instructions, this sway bar assembly. And the thing with the sway bar assembly is that's where you bring the sheet and use this sheet, but to be honest, I do not see the difference between the two. The manual actually has more information. If you look at this, these are the same numbers, 91,749, 91,741, times 4, times 4. Tells you the bag. All right, well, the bag was in bag 2. You can figure it out. I mean, they have so many problems with the other stuff, such as having to grab these from a totally different bag. This is probably the least of concerns, to be honest. But you're going to be using the 4 little countersunk screws in here. So we are now on step 6. Alright, so a quick little note about the sway bar. So the sway bar, it will tell you to assemble the sway bar. And before you attach this, you need to see that sway bar. The sway bar is already fitted in here. And the sway bar just magically appears there. So there, you were supposed to set it in. I missed it on step 6. So make sure that you set the sway bar in there. So if you make that mistake, not a big deal. I just remove those screws. You open it up a little. I'm just going to place the sway bar in here. And then I'll just open the gap enough to fit this in. And that's all you have to do. So it'll just go in there, it'll sit in there, and then you can just press this. Let's see, all right, so that slides in there. It's the screws, I need to move them. All right, let me back them out. Should have just removed the screws completely. There we go. Now you can tighten them. So do not forget that that's step 6, where the sway bar is supposed to go in. It was driving me nuts. I was trying to figure out when the sway bar was supposed to be attached. But that is it. So right now, once you do this, I will finish this off camera actually. And I say that as I continue on. But let me show you in the manual again. I'll leave that there. So if you see here, the sway bar is already attached on step 8. So if we go back a page, there's no sway bar. You assemble the sway bar, and the sway bar is supposed to sit right in there. And you will see it keys in, that center part just keys in. And step 6, we are mounting the weight. So first I'm going to be mounting this chassis weight, which, to be honest, I don't understand the purpose of this weight, except for maybe flexibility if you want to take it off. I'm going to mount it because that's what the instructions say, but why have this plate? I mean, they could have just left this material in. Again, if you want to remove it later on, maybe you want less weight, fine, that would make sense. But here, we will be using this. Now, it'll be easier for me because the screws are so little to just put a little drop in there. There's such short screws. There they are. So they are in this tiny little bag, which is 2.2, and you cannot see because of the light. If I stand up, 2.2, that's the bag it's referencing. You still can't see. But anyway, there's some tiny little screws in here in this little bag. 4 of them are countersunk screws, and then there are 2 others that are not, and those we will be using on the arms. So let me go ahead and just place this in here. And I'm going to use the 1.5 millimeter driver. And you do want to make sure that you're using thread lock here because it's metal into metal. That's the reason why. Right? You have an aluminum weight. And at the time of this video, I'm not sure if they make a brass one. I'm wondering if that's the reason why. Although my experience with the 6.1, the previous generation, is that the front tends to come up a lot. So when you're jumping, you actually want to let off the throttle when you come into the jump. If not, the truck's going to want to just flip backwards. So something, maybe you can add some weight to the front under the servo. There's a little weight that Team Associated makes that fits right in there. A little more weight. I don't know if it would help. Usually just letting off the throttle as you're coming into the jump. That usually helps out. But yeah, these trucks are very light in the front. And do not over tighten these. You can definitely break those little screws. You can break any of the screws, but those are especially short screws. But here we go. Alright, so now we can worry about the sway bar. So the sway bar, we will be needing these links right over here, and then the sway bar. And we will also be needing this collar. So the collar will go in there. And something that you can do is you will need a little set screw. Right, set screw, a presser screw, I've heard grub screw as well. Here we go. And you will need some thread lock on this. Just a bit. There we go, not too much. And the collar just goes in the center of the sway bar. Just trying to get it right about in the center. Gonna grab that ruler. Not going to though. It's about the center. All right. Now, this is a 1.3 millimeter sway bar. You can buy some thicker sway bars, and it all depends on your application. So first, just try out the whatever comes stock. Now here for this pivot ball, you want to just make sure it's here right at the edge. And again, we're going to grab another set screw. Like I said, the bags are all over the place. Well, I'm sure there's probably a worse kit out there to assemble. This one's not too bad, but it could be better. All right, and that is set. No, it's not. ahead and grab the other one. And again, just a little dab. And there we go. So that sheet with the revised instructions, I'm not sure what they are for. I mean, so far I've gotten to the first step where they would be useful, and I did not see a difference between them. So I have no idea if they printed those out to add to the 6.1 manuals. Maybe at first they were using 6.1 manuals. That's a possibility. Because as far as I can see, on this step, the hardware is the same. If they're referring to this, the only thing that they added is the note of the bag, but the bag comes inside of bag number 2. So now we'll move on to step 7. So step 7. Oh, no. Sorry, I apologize. We still need to finish up step 6. Are these it? Where are they now? They seem too thin. Yeah, those are it. There's nothing else in here. How on earth? This cannot be. No. So again, we're going to have to reach into another bag. Oh, it's that same bag. So go back to that bag, 6 or 9, whatever that bag was. And that's where you will find these links here for the sway bar. So again, you want to go into this big bag. Just find it. You'll see the springs in there for the shocks. That's where you will get them from. All right. Well, let's see. Yeah, those little ones are for the servo, which I did not use. I'm going to go through and check to see if I needed them. I doubt it. Here we go. And that snapped right into place. And no, did not need them for the servo according to the instructions. So I'm not going to worry about them. But these are just spacers. It should be for the servo. I'll place them there. Great. So this is assembled, and the sway bar, based on what I can see, these will attach to the arms. So the arms, yeah, here they are. So the arms have those little knobs. That's where it will attach. So sway bar is assembled. At this point, we will just need the shock tower, which is very nice shock tower. This is carbon fiber. It's very well made. Now there is a side to this. So this will be the front. Notice it's countersunk. That's for the screws. Therefore, this will go here. So this will go right in there, and you just line up the holes. So ignore the center hole. It's the top and the bottom. And let's see. It looks like it should be these. There's 3, 4 that are the same size. Size 12 millimeter. That's about 12 millimeter. And here we go. Oh, it moved and it went into the wrong one. There we go. All right. Now, do not get carbon fiber parts to replace your plastic parts because you think they're lighter, because they are not. The density of graphite and plastic is very similar. It's almost the same. The reason why you get carbon fiber is because it's just stronger. It's a much stronger material. That's the reason why. So if this shock tower were plastic, it would weigh about the same as this carbon fiber one. The difference is the strength. This carbon fiber one can take major stresses, major impacts. That's the reason why you want carbon fiber shock towers. So it's not because of weight. If you had steel, then yes. Why is this not going in? It doesn't like me. There we go. All right. And I'm not going to tighten them all the way. That's not good. Where did I put them? Here they are. All right. And after this one, we will have one more, and then I can go through and just tighten them. I will be tightening this one first, all the way. So again, when buying parts for NERC, just be cautious of what parts you're buying and why you're buying them. Don't go around just buying all aluminum parts or all carbon fiber parts. You may need them, you may not. So it may just be an expense that you don't need. Unless you want something that just looks neat and that's why you're buying the carbon fiber, sure, go for it. The other thing too that I recommend doing is if you're not familiar with the densities of different materials, for example, brass is just over 8 grams per cubic centimeter. Aluminum is over 2. Brass is almost 3 times as dense. It's about 3 times the density of brass. Where I'm going with this is, if you look up the densities, that'll give you an idea on how much a part will weigh compared to another part. So if you're trying to go with weight savings or adding weight, in some applications you have to add weight, that's something you can do. Just look at the densities and see what the other part would be. Again, carbon fiber and plastic, there's not much difference between the two, so it makes no sense to replace a plastic part that doesn't need to be carbon fiber with a carbon fiber part. You're just wasting your money if the purpose is weight. Now this part here is not crucial, but I just felt the need to trim it. There it is. All right, and now that this is complete, we have to go ahead and grab this part, and this will just sit in here, and it just sits perfectly, just the way it should. And for this, we will need a screw to attach it back here. Now we will also need 2 that will hold the post. Now these posts, to be honest, I have no idea what height they have to be. I can't remember based on the other one, but I am using 14. Wow, those are long. So those are long screws. It's going to be these thin ones, thin, longer ones. Let me line up the hole. There we go. All right, so that one is in. Go ahead and place this one, and that one is in. Just going to go ahead and tighten these. And these you will have to adjust later on. To be honest, I shouldn't even tighten them all the way, because I'm probably going to end up moving them. Once I put a body on it, I will know. But I'm going to have to paint up the body. I do have a body that's going to go on this one after I paint it with my colors. But that is it. So now we're going to go with the stock settings. And for the stock settings on here, these are the nuts that are going to go in the back. But you will need the longer screws that go in through the front. And those longer screws are pretty long. They're these 22mm screws right in here. And there is an 8mm screw that goes back here, so that's probably the easier one. Let's just go with the 8mm first, just to hold that in place. I don't have to hold it with my fingers. That screw can just kind of hold it. So this will go in here. All right. Now these are pretty high. If you look at the stock, it says to go in the second hole. I placed it all the way to number 4, but it doesn't matter. So with these here, just going to dab a little bit, and stock setting is in the center. Later on, I'm going to change this. To be honest, they're probably going to end up going all the way to the inside. Then, wait, is this the right one? Yeah, 22. Is it 22? Might be longer. This time, I'm going to measure, because that's too many threads for me to make a mistake on. And it is 22. All right, so let's bring that in. Probably would have been better if I applied the thread lock over here, to be honest. All right, you can just use a wrench finish tightening that, or if you hold it this way, just use the driver. It's actually holding in place quite well. So there it is. And it will be protruding. And I'm going to place this one over here. So again, I'm just doing a whatever the manual says, so stock build. Later on, I'm going to change these things once I take it out to the track. The manual gives you a good reference point, and then you can start from there. Because if you start, I mean, unless you've built a few of these and you've run them, then somebody asks, like, oh, I'm going to be running clay. All right, good. Is it damp clay or dry clay? And then you can kind of set it. But really, you have to run it in order to set it properly. All right, good. So at this point, now we want to set up the bumper. So we have the bumper. Now the bumper, notice the shape of it. So if you look at this, this is going to attach right in here in those top holes. So it'll go like this. So it will be sort of pointing down. And these screws will be 10mm screws, which will be these other screws over here. And one of the things that I can see is this is going to be a pain. All right, let's go ahead and start tightening. Just holding it right now just to make sure this thread's on straight. And that is threading on straight. Good. And let's go ahead and grab this one. And so that will go on the other side. And again, I'm just starting the threads. And here we go. Now I'm going to thread them all the way in. Now, I believe the bumper is supposed to be revised for these. I don't know how strong this revised bumper is. Sometimes these things would crack. I mean, one of the things that would help, to be honest, is to, well, not crash, right? If you don't crash, you won't break it. That would be an example. Well, I guess there's other ways of breaking it as well. But here we go. So this is all set. And at this point, we have completed step 7, and then step 8, we will do another revision, but that will be for the next video.